Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down the anatomy of workplace safety. You know, if you're an international worker stepping into a brand new industrial environment, or really just any professional navigating high-stakes daily operations, you absolutely know how heavy that pressure can be. But hey, here's a massive relieving secret for you. Modern industries are completely changing how they handle risk. We're going to see how shifting our mindset from, well, unfair blame over to systemic understanding is going to completely revolutionize your daily workplace safety. Let's get right into it.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're doing a bit of a zoom-out journey. We'll start with incident versus accident, then move into rethinking human error, compare individual versus system accidents, and wrap up with building a safety culture.
Okay, Section 1, Incident versus Accident. Let's zoom all the way in and establish our basic terms. Before we can fix what goes wrong out there on the floor, we really have to get on the same page with our language. And words matter immensely, right? Especially when you're trying to communicate hazards in a multilingual or diverse workplace. Now, historically, the word accident kind of implies bad luck. You know, some unforeseen, totally unpreventable event that causes harm. But modern safety standards, they draw a hard line here. They push us toward the word incident. An incident is a preventable event. It includes those near misses and close calls where, sure, nobody got hurt, but man, they easily could have. An accident is a tragedy, but an incident, that's a free warning. By expanding our focus to incidents, we're not just reacting anymore. We're actively finding those warning signs and empowering the whole team to fix issues way before someone actually gets hurt.
Moving right along to Section 2, Rethinking Human Error. Let's see how this plays into the choices you make every single day.
So there's this massive trap in safety investigations, and it's called hindsight bias. I want you to imagine you're walking through a really complex maze. When you're inside it, every turn makes total sense in the moment, right? You don't know which corner hides a dead end. But after an event happens, an investigator essentially looks at your path from above, tracing that maze backwards from the finish line. To them, the correct path looks glaringly obvious. And because of this bias, it is just incredibly easy for management to unfairly blame workers at the sharp end of the stick. They'll say, well, he should have done this or she could have done that, completely ignoring the confusing, messy reality you are actually facing in that exact moment.
So how on earth do we fight this hindsight bias? Well, we use something called the substitution test. And the core idea here is simple but powerful. Even the best person can make the worst human error. If you make a mistake, investigators have to ask, would another worker navigating the exact same language barriers with the exact same skills and the exact same training as you have made that exact same mistake in that situation? If the answer is yes, then guess what? The whole bad apple theory is a total myth. You aren't the problem. The system you were forced to work in is flawed.
This brings us to a reality you face every single day, the ETTO principle, or the efficiency thoroughness trade-off. Look, on one hand, you're asked to hit strict production quotas, save time, and be super efficient. But at the exact same time, you're told to be perfectly thorough, following every single meticulous safety rule, doing all the prep work, double-checking every single valve. Let's be real, with limited resources and a ticking clock, doing both of those perfectly is literally impossible. When production pressure goes through the roof, thoroughness naturally takes a hit. Acknowledging this trade-off is absolutely crucial. It's the very first step in understanding why well-meaning, hardworking people end up skipping steps.
Now, here is a crazy fact for you. Almost 90% of your day is spent entirely on autopilot. We call this skill-based behavior. You're highly trained and just acting out of habit. Then there's rule-based behavior. That's when you encounter a familiar problem and follow a learned if-then procedure. But knowledge-based behavior? Oh, that is where things get really tricky. This involves deep problem-solving in completely new situations. Think about it. If you're a foreign worker dealing with unfamiliar equipment or entirely new operational standards in a new country, you are spending a lot of time in this vulnerable, knowledge-based mode. Breaking down these modes helps us see exactly where errors naturally sneak in, especially when we're running low on energy or feeling stressed out.
All right, zooming out a bit further now for Section 3, Individual versus System Accidents.
I want you to think about this question for a second. Is a worker slipping on a ladder the exact same type of accident as a massive factory fire? I mean, on the surface, yeah, both are accidents, but they actually represent two completely different scales of failure. A slipped ladder is usually an individual accident. It's a localized hazard. But a factory fire? That is a system accident. It represents a massive, cascading organizational failure, where multiple layers of defense have just collapsed all at once.
To really wrap our heads around a system accident, we have to look at the anatomy of an organization. Right at the front, you have the sharp end. Think the factory floor, the active construction site. This is where you, the worker, directly interact with the physical hazards. But miles and miles away, maybe in a comfy corporate office, is the blunt end. That's where management allocates budgets, sets schedules, and designs the policies. Often, a distant decision made way over at the blunt end creates a hidden, latent hazard. And because of those distant decisions, the worker at the sharp end is put into an impossible situation, essentially forced to become an accident in waiting.
For our final zoom out today, let's dive into Section 4, Building a Safety Culture. This is the absolute biggest picture. We hear the phrase safety culture thrown around all the time, right? But what actually is it? Well, we can break it down using Shane's culture model. Level 1 is artifacts. These are your visible signs, the safety posters on the wall, the hard hats you wear. Level 2 goes a bit deeper into espoused values. These are the stated safety policies, basically what the company claims to believe. But Level 3, that is where the magic happens. Basic assumptions. These are the unconscious, deeply ingrained core beliefs of everyone in the building. Look, when you step into a new country or a brand new factory, learning the posters and the rules is the easy part. But absorbing those unspoken, unconscious assumptions, that's where true safety integration happens. It's when every single person instinctively prioritizes safety over speed without even having to think about it. And the bedrock of that deep culture is what we call a just culture. Now, what's really interesting about this is how it practically guarantees you a voice. In a just culture, making an honest mistake because of a confusing system is not going to cost you your job. You're promised that reporting a near miss won't automatically result in blame or punishment. A just culture recognizes that efficiency-thoroughness trade-off we talked about, and it fights hindsight bias. It ensures total fairness for honest, systemic errors, while still keeping strict accountability for actively reckless behavior. Truly, it's the ultimate bridge of trust between that distant corporate office and the reality of the factory floor.
Which brings us right to our final thought. The anatomy of safety isn't just about a dusty rulebook. It is a living system, and it needs your participation. When you walk onto the floor tomorrow, armed with this new understanding of human error, system failures, and just culture, you've got a choice to make. Are you going to be just another silent accident and waiting at the sharp end, just crossing your fingers and hoping the system protects you? Or will you use your voice to fix the system, reporting those incidents, and actively helping build a true safety culture? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining us on this explainer, and hey, stay safe out there.